Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you this morning? Hope you're doing grand. Hello. How is everyone this morning? Today is treating you well. The first congregational mug this morning, highly coveted, never reproduced. How is everybody on this Thursday? Back off the road and back in the sanctum sanctorum over here. So glad to be with everyone. How are you all? Good morning, good morning. Got a fun weekend these days. Jamie Battles, everybody. Guess who's back? I don't know. Am I guessing? Morning, John. How are you? I saw your picture of your moonshot. I actually took one too when I was out this morning. I was actually going to post it. So it is. It was super dark, and I don't know what it was about that full moon, but it was just so dark and so bright all at the same time. It was weirdness, but good morning, friends. How are you? So tomorrow we have our all church movie night. So I hope you'll make it out for that if you're in the area. We are watching the North Avenue Irregulars, which will be just super fun. You can watch it at home. You can rent it on Prime if you're not local to us. But here we are. So yeah. So hope. But yeah. So we'll gather at 5-ish. We'll have some pizza and some popcorn, and then we'll get into our movie somewhere between 5:30 and 6-ish. Where nothing's too slavish, so if you're coming straight from work, you got to eat. Like come on down. It's a great way to start a Friday night. Get out of work, come on over, have some pizza, visit with your church family, and watch a super fun movie. Jamie Battle, I'm a regular. I have so many comments, none of them pastoral. All right, let's get going this morning, friends. It is the 5th day of March. We're almost through the first week of March, friends. It is the fifth day of March on this Thursday at 11:11. I'm glad you're here and a part of this journey. We've been talking about Proverbs off and on, and so I wanted to kind of stay with the theme. We have in Proverbs 3, this is kind of a famous proverb, but I want us to talk about it in kind of maybe a little different way. This is Proverbs 3. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. So there's a lot going on here, even though it seems like just a few short verses. There's actually a few different things happening in this little piece of Proverbs this notion that we would trust with our heart, that we would not lean on our understanding, that in our ways we would submit to what's going on, and then allow God to make paths straight. So there's this kind of this fourfold path that's laid out in this, and it's all kind of a sense of how we dedicate. This is a word that you hear a lot about, kind of dedicating your life to following Jesus. And so I don't want to load this up too much because I want to think about it in terms of like how we, about other kinds of dedications, that we can kind of load that up with all kinds of performative things about how I'm doing a good job because I've dedicated my life, or I'm not doing a good job because I'm a slacker, or we can tell ourselves all kinds of stories about our praxis, about our practice of what that means. But that's not what I want to think about. I wanted to think about this notion that of simply like dedicating you get yourself to this thing, one of the ways we can think about it is kind of like how we think about dedicating a building, right? And you've seen these, right? Like that you come up to the cornerstone of the building and it says, this building dedicated, 1906 or whatever it says. That we think about these structures of our life, or these homes that we live in, or different things, these things in our life, and that they've been dedicated, for a particular use. And I want to suggest we're kind of like that. We have been dedicated to this world, to this planet, to this time, to this hour, to this place, for a particular way and a particular purpose to serve a particular function. A hospital is dedicated to in whatever year. Well, that hospital has a particular function to it, right? Like it has a thing that it's doing. It's healing people, and if it's not healing people, then it's not providing its function. A church is dedicated to the worship of God. If they're not worshiping God, then they're not living up to what they're dedicated for. And we're kind of made this way too. And this is what I think Proverbs is leaning on us is this invitation to trust God with our heart, is to lean into what we have been dedicated for. I was looking through this is what I do for fun, gang. This is it. Like and this is why I have no friends. Like this. So this is the Congregational Worship Book. This was put together by one of the great congregational saints, fellow by the name of Henry David Gray. Henry David Gray is, he's passed into the saints now, but he's a bit of congregational royalty, if you will, Puritan royalty. And he has a section on what it means to dedicate a building. And I want us to hear it this morning through this lens of Proverbs, through this notion of what it means to perhaps dedicate our life, and to not get hung up on that about our performative sense around that. The sense of like, oh, I've dedicated my life, and now it means all these things, what it means for it. But actually to live into it as our kind of our purpose and our function, the way we would dedicate a building. So he's got this little thing that he wrote about what it means when we dedicate buildings, and I want us to just pick it apart for a second about what would it mean for us to kind of dedicate to have such a life that maybe had these elements in it. So listen to this. So what does it mean for a Christian to dedicate a building? Well, that's a fair question. In a day when many church buildings, halls, chapels, appurtenances are being dedicated. It means that we are setting something apart for use in God's work. Money, which might have been used for ourselves, instead creates buildings of beauty so that we and others may be helped to enter into the fullness of Christian living. Thus, God is served through us as we make it possible for us to worship, learn, pray, grow together in fellowship, and all that provides for these adventures in Christian growth is, therefore, said to be dedicated to the service of God. But that's not all. To dedicate means to ask God to do something in connection with our actions. Abraham Lincoln said, "We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate. It is for us, the living, here to be rededicated." And he was right. When we dedicate something, we renew our vows to allegiance to God, and we ask his blessing on what we have sought to do in his name. We pray that the Eternal Father will stir conscience in us and cause us devotion to be quickened, our work to be made more selfless, and our service to become more acceptable in his sight. It is a solemn and sacred act to dedicate anything in God's name. For no place or thing is holy except as those who are Christ followers bring to it the spirit of the Master, and by their use of it make plain their oneness of devotion to God. I love this little passage, and part of it is this little writing by Henry David Gray, because part of it is if we think, what happens when we think of our lives as this building? When we think of our lives or we even think of our psyches in such a way that our emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical selves, and we think about that having dedicated these efforts and these parts and these pieces to God, it becomes less about being performative, making sure we are perfect and we get it all right, and just repressing all the things that don't fit or don't belong, or all the skeletons in the closet, and starts being more about this simple thing about what are we going to put inside it today? What are we going to what room are we going to live in? Are we gonna bury ourselves in the basement of despair? Are we gonna spend time in the kitchen and cook up something beautiful? Are we going to rejoice in the living areas with others that we love? How are we gonna live this life that is dedicated to God? And that our dedication stops being about our zero defect living, and starts being about the fullness of who and what we are before God, with all of the beauties and all of the difficulties, and maybe even all of the remodeling that needs to happen. Because we think about, there's been this, there's this, I think, one of the greatest heresies ever created in Christendom. And this will probably make some of you mad. I hope it doesn't. But if you do, give me a call. We'll talk it out. We'll hug it out. It'll be okay. But this notion, this kind of, we find it with many of our evangelical friends, this once saved, always saved idea. This just like a building, like once dedicated, always dedicated. Just because a building was dedicated to a particular purpose doesn't mean it's always used for that purpose. We know that. And so too are our lives. Just because we feel like we've one time had a relationship with God doesn't mean we're always have that relationship going, but that it is a daily cultivating. It is a daily invitation to what are we filling our rooms with? What are we filling our lives with? What are we filling our beings with? And again, this isn't about getting it all right, because there are skeletons in the closet, and there are floorboards that need replacing, and there is a roof that needs to be done. There is rededication that always needs to happen. But that's not all on us. And in fact, none of it really is. That it's simply ours to dwell in. And that's what brings us back, I think, to this idea of what we found in Proverbs. These 4 little steps in Proverbs that are so powerful that we could spend a whole sense on, but that are really, I think, many ways the invitation to how we can dedicate not our whole lives, not our whole being, not the whole building, but just the comfy couch or the spot or the basement or the closet that we happen to find ourselves in at this moment, to simply dedicate this time and this space and this place to the one who made us and is seeking to call us closer to him. And so this invitation that I hope you can hear again, this invitation to how we might be about the task of dedicating, that stops being about the perfect and stops being about the pursuit of peccadillos, but starts being about the reception of the love of Christ Jesus, who is remodeling all things and making them new, who is pouring his love upon us every moment, and wants nothing but to give us grace upon grace. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Friends, I hope you have straight paths today, and if they're not, well, that you might rededicate your walk and your life to the one who made it. Peace and grace to you all on this Thursday, the 5th of March. So glad you're all here. I see you came in. Hi, Deb. Glad you made it. Donna, so glad you're here. Great to see you yesterday. Karen, good morning to you. Vicky, glad you're here. Yvette, hello, hello. Jamie, you're here. John, I know it really did that moon did catch my attention too. So glad you're all here. Peace and grace to you all. And we have movie night tomorrow night. Hope you'll come out and have some pizza and some popcorn and watch a silly fun movie with us as a church together. And we will worship with our continuing series of the Murderer's Row for Lent, and we'll be taking up King Manasseh, not always the best known of the guys, but considered the worst king ever in the Bible. So we'll take him on Sunday. Peace and grace to you all, and we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.